Welcome back, Sport Marketers. Part 2 of our interesting and exciting discussion on legal aspects of sports marketing, which is chapter 14 in the book. Trademark infringement. Definitionally, reproduction, counterfeiting, or imitating a registered mark. It's likely to cause confusion, especially the less savvy the consumer is. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But traditional trademark infringement, when you cause confusion between brands, especially if it's on purpose. Some of those are more obvious than others, which we'll talk about in a minute. Or you use, you're actually trying to deceive, indicating a false designation of origin that it's made in the USA when it's really made in Guatemala, and dilution of the brand. So if somebody's spent a lot of money and time building a quality brand, say Apple Computing or Apple, and then someone comes out with a Pear brand. Again, these examples are for real. Now, obviously, the 7-Eleven registered trademark and the Super 7 non-registered trademark. Obviously, that is, if they're both convenience stores, that is obviously an effort on behalf of the Super 7 people to mislead. Somehow you just glance at it and you think it's affiliated with 7-Eleven. Now, a more advanced shopper obviously wouldn't bite on that. But suppose this was in a country where maybe it wasn't detail oriented and it's a terrible chain or store, and they diluted the 7-Eleven brand and potentially say they have a poison outbreak at their coffee station and it gets equated with 7-Eleven, that could be damaging, of course. So how to determine trademark infringement? How strong is the trademark? Is it nationwide? Is it international? Is it within your city? Everybody knows that ABC Electrical Contracting or whatever it is. How close are they? How similar do they look or appear? The products in that Super 7 and 7-Eleven example, if they're both convenience stores, then that's pretty similar. If it's not, you might can make the argument that, well, it looks like a convenience store, but we're really in the gambling business, whatever. What channels are used? Do they use the same channels to buy and distribute their product? If yes, that can be very damning to the thief, because that indicates that they are in a similar business. They obviously are trying to confuse or misrepresent. Now, this Nike knockoff of Nike, Must I Make Do It, if they were selling that, in Atlanta, Georgia, let's say, nobody would be confused by that. But suppose that was in a country or a market where the consumer was somewhat less savvy, and they saw the swoosh, and they said, that must be a Nike product, and I must make do it. Right? Well, so that is certainly actionable. It's actionable anyway, but you can see that could be deceptive and misleading. So the intent, how do you determine, we're back just continuing to talk about determining trademark infringement. What's the intent of the defendant? Are they just having a sorority party? So they knocked off a little bit of a Chick-fil-A looking logo. Well, that's not a big deal. It's probably not going to get in trouble for that. if you opened a whole chain of restaurants that have various stores that have very similar name across a whole continent or a country, then yeah, how sophisticated are the potential consumers? And is there any evidence of actual confusion? Can you get affidavits from people to say, I went in there thinking that this was brand A. I only realized later that it wasn't after I got domain poisoning and died. So KLG chicken, fried chicken, with a KFC looking kernel made into a chicken. Now, again, if they open that on the street corner in, Atlanta, Georgia, nobody would buy that. But what if it was in a country where people thought that must be a KFC related brand? Or maybe you went to McDowell's to get some chicken nuggets and found out, oh, these are from part of the chicken that are not quite tasty as the McDonald's chicken nuggets. And they were obviously trying to mislead, especially if these are both KLG is serving fried chicken, food products, and McDowell's as well. Obviously, intending to deceive. Reese's Cup. It's a very international brand. And somebody trying to knock off a similar item, dark and milk chocolate peanut butter cup, 200 milligrams of Hashies. Especially if there's, hash in it. Obviously, those are intended to deceive. Depending on how sophisticated the consumer is, certainly actionable. So, claims under which trademark owners can sue: false designation of origin, which we talked about, and dilution of the brand. There are some defenses of using a registered trademark or copyright. If the originating firm has abandoned it, happens a lot with musical groups. They have a string of hits, they're together for 10 years, then they all decide not to do it. And then one of the members decides to form a group around himself and call it the name of the original group. They've argued successfully, many of them, that, well, everybody abandoned the name, so I picked it up. I've been using it. That's defense. Fair use, talk about in a minute. Genericness, which we talked about earlier. And functionality. So let's look at what is cyber squatting. That's when someone sets up a Twitter account and they use hashtag the real share or something like that. Then that's actionable, but you have to say, well, they're misleading people. It's really Cher's Twitter account, and it's not. And if it's been registered internationally. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Let's talk about copyright law and sports marketing. Copyrights can protect written works, music, pictures, graphic designs, which we talked about earlier with Making Bacon, audiovisual works, including broadcasts. Now, you hear that on every football game you watch. This broadcast is protected by the National Football League, unauthorized use, prohibited, blah, blah, blah. So the Copyright Act of 76 takes original works of authorship appear in any tangible medium of expression. So if you're a musical artist, even if you issue it on, digitally on Spotify or somewhere else, that's protected. And then we have, moving into the millennium, digital creations and the internet also covered. So you can copyright something to be developed later, but you've got to flesh it out pretty good. It can't just be, like I said earlier, an idea that you just had and for something fanciful or something. You have to flesh it out somewhat. And you saw the great detail earlier in the presentation about the Make It Bacon baseball team. How the detail that's listed in there. You have to have some sort of detail available. So what is protected? Books, stories, music, including lyrics, plays, movies. You can't go to the movie theater. And remember the old Seinfeld episode where they would film the releases and then sell them bootleg? Art, choreography, sculpture, sound recording, and architectural works. Architects typically copyright and trademark their creations because they created it. Landscaping as well, for certain high profile or parks or different things that architects have lined out. So infringement occurs when somebody makes unauthorized use of copyrighted work. I make a bunch of University of Alabama t-shirts with an elephant on them, and I drew them on. I think's awesome. I've infringed upon their copyright, and if I'm making any money at it, they're going to stop me. So, 4 factors that courts take in consideration: the purpose of the use. If I'm using it in a class or teaching, it's probably okay. I'm making money on it? No. The nature or character of the copyrighted work. What is? How much of the copyrighted work did someone use when they were knocking it off, whether it's a logo or a service mark or a trademark? And the effect of the use on the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Does it dilute it so bad that it just kills the brand that they have a large investment in? Right? So, how do you defend yourself against such? Well, you can criticize something and you can reprint it and criticize it, comment on it. You can use names and brand names in a news story. I can teach with it. I can generally print out an article and post it, and let's talk about that, even though I may not have paid Sports Illustrated for the use of it, or do some scholarship on it, cited in a paper or research that I'm doing. With respect to copyrights and sporting events, I just touched on that. You hear the message played in every National Football League game about how it's protected. But the Athletic or the Atlanta Journal-Constitution does not have to get permission to recap the stats of the game. The box score. That's the reason you can always get on CBS Sports. You can get the box score of real-time play-by-play, but maybe not the television transmission, because that's over on Fox or ESPN. Patents. Discover a process or something new or a way to make something, you can patent that. Not just an idea, a complete description of it you can patent. A lot of people patent things with full descriptions and then go around and try to get companies to back it, to make it. Not just the idea. You've already thought it through, drawn it out, and sketched it out, and it works. Maybe made one, whatever, in a non-sporting like example. But in the last 20 years, after that, anybody can use it. About 20 years. Well, that enables you to get your money back from R&D. You develop a product that's wildly successful, so you make your money back from R&D. You make a profit. You created it, so it's fair to get your money back. And after that, other people can make, the knockoff Claritin, Wallatin at Walgreens. Commercial speech. It's hard to restrict speech. Can be restricted in advertising if the state has a substantial interest And, if the commercial speech must concern a lawful activity, not be misleading. So, commercial speech for heroin usage in Georgia or something, that wouldn't be a lawful activity, so you couldn't do that. And not be misleading. So misleading advertising, other than just puffery, which marketing students know what that is. If it's completely misleading, fact-free, that doesn't apply to political advertising. That's a free speech issue. It's up to other people to fact check it. Must directly advance the state's interest. You just can't speech, commercial speech, and no more extensive than necessary to meet the state's interest. So the courts are going to look at that. And so, it might be a little too far. We think the Falcons have the ability to advertise and use that phrase or whatever. Ambush marketing. You see this happening outside of, if you go to the SEC championship game or a NCAA tournament game, you will see people set up all around the periphery, just outside of the area where people paid to be in, having their own promotions and things. And the bigger the event is, the Super Bowl or something, you see a lot more of it. So people that don't pay the fees to be a sponsor, they set up just outside the periphery with their own promotion for their products, as if they're affiliated with the Super Bowl or SEC championship game, even though they're not. If Coca-Cola is set up and it's being sponsored by Dr. Pepper, exclusively, then it'll be outside of the periphery. And right or wrong, shades of gray generally have to be assessed, one by one. Is it right to do? I don't know. If I'm outside the periphery and advertising Zantac, if people think that I'm affiliated with the event, I'm not telling them I am. They're thinking themselves, but, typical ambush marketing in sports, the use of generic phrases. That's the reason that the NCAA and CBS Sports use March Madness for the NCAA basketball tournament every year. Other people don't. They call it something else because they can't. They can't call it March Madness. They can call it, March Mischief or basketball in March or whatever they want to do. They can't say March Madness. Or you purchase advertising time within the event broadcast. Dr. Pepper sponsoring it, and Coca-Cola buys ad space on the broadcast, then on the action of the big event. Presence in and around the event venue, conducting promotions, offering congratulatory messages. Hey, we want to welcome the Super Bowl to Atlanta, and you didn't pay the right to do it. Publicity and invasion of privacy. You can't use someone's likeness without them approving it. Generally. I boiled that slide down to that. If somebody decides, if Bill Walton decides that he no longer wants to be, associated with, UCLA basketball team, he could say, no, you can't. I don't want you to use mine. I'm going to be a hermit and live in a hollow in a cave, and I don't want to remember that prior life or whatever you might say. You can do that. You have to have permission. It says legal lines continue to be blurry. One of the main issues of, I'll tell you what, I'm going to come to it in a minute, but it involved a basketball player from UCLA who saw his jersey being used in a video game that he didn't approve. And it started the litigation against, should college athletes have some rights. But those are just some examples. So, potential issues involving customers. Personal seat licenses. The Atlanta Falcons use this. Some sports teams, fans have sued their favorite team because disagree with the concept of the personal seat license, or I don't think it's being administrated fairly. Of course, you can, when you sue your fans, or fans sue you, that's not a good idea if you can help it. Bad PR, just bad all the way around. Sometimes it must be done, but in sports marketing, you really have to think about your season tickets holders. So that's your guaranteed revenue. Don't try to keep those above and beyond the single ticket purchasers. Your promotion, sweepstakes, contests, and lotteries. Those are popular. What do you have to consider? Prize, is it legal? What you're giving away? You can't just give away a bottle of scotch to everybody, and you have to restrict it by age and various other things. What are the chances? You have to publish those so that people know going into it what their chances are. It's like on lottery, and flip it over. You got a 1 in 2 million chance of winning the grand prize. And do people have to provide some consideration? Have to be in attendance? Do they have to be a season ticket holder to enter? All those things dictate whether promotions are acceptable, ethical, and legal. So, emerging issues with respect to the legal aspects in sports marketing. Athletes using their own social media accounts and building their own brands. Something that's becoming more and more frequent and needs to be followed more heavily, and is. Athletes trademarking names and slogans. You see it when they sit for an interview and they're wearing their own brand of sportswear, wearing their own hats with their own brands on it. And using current and former student athletes' likenesses and videos. I said, started with a UCLA basketball player. I believe it was his nephew or his son was playing a game, and they said, "Hey, look, Dad, there's Uncle, there's your jersey number. You're a player in it." And he went, "I didn't give him authorization for that." And that's been going on for years. He won, and it's just part of the rolling litigation to allow college athletes to control their likeness during and after, which prior to him bringing up the issue, when you signed your scholarship, you gave up all rights to that, which is not right. And NCAA and school would make money on it. Okay, so with that said, that finishes up Chapter 14, Part 2, legal aspects of sports marketing.